lesson is just some basics on inequalities. We're going to start by focusing on the symbols. You'll see this table. All we're going to ask you to do is on the right-hand side, fill out the symbols as we talk about them. So first, if we say A is less than B, a lot of people have a hard time figuring out which way the less than symbol goes. If you hold out your hand and make an L with your index finger and your thumb, and then just squish it together, that tells you it's the less than, for L for less than. So we write it as A is less than B. Next, A is greater than B, you just reverse it. For A is less than or equal to B, all you do is throw an equal sign underneath. What that means is that you could have a number, let's say A is 3. That means B could be 3 or anything that was larger than 3. When we say A is at most B, this is another way to say less than or equal to. Another phrase would be A is no more than B. And this would have the same notation. A is less than or equal to B. A is greater than or equal to B. You just flip it around. A is at least B also means greater than or equal to. This next one's a little bit tricky, and this is going to involve 3 variables here. It says A is greater than B and less than C. Another way to say that, A is between B and C. So we're going to need 2 inequalities symbols for this. We're going to put it all together here. So you would start by saying B is less than A, which is less than C. So you just kind of list them in order here. That definitely says A is greater than B, but less than C. The next one, very similar, except it says greater than or equal to. Another phrase for this is A is between B and C, inclusive. If you ever see that phrase, either on your paper or in your textbook, inclusive just means that A could actually equal B or C. So it's a little bit stronger case than the one that we just looked at. The notation is very similar, except underneath the inequality symbols, you're just going to have some equal bars. So B is less than or equal to A, which is less than or equal to C. And the last one, pretty easy. A is not equal to B. We don't use this one very much, but you just put a slash to the equal sign. All right, so let's do some translating here. We just need to write an inequality that's going to describe the situation. So here it says A is less than or equal to 10. Underline the is less than or equal to. Make sure you get that is in there as well. If you remember from equations, is means equals, but now when the is attached to the less than or equal to notation, we actually switch and we make it an inequality. So for this one, you're literally going to write A and then use the less than or equal sign, and then 10. Next one, R is positive. If you think about what positive numbers are, those would be numbers greater than 0. They do not include 0 because 0 is kind of a neutral number. So we would just write R is greater than 0. The next one is a little bit different. T is non-negative. You could this time be positive or you could be 0. So for this one, it's a little bit stronger. We say T is greater than or equal to 0. All right, next example. We're going to look at T is between 4.5 and 4.6 inclusive. Underline that word inclusive. And if you look back at our inequality basics here, the second one from the bottom there, you'll see the notation that you want to use. So we're saying that T is in the middle. We start out with 4.5, that's the least one. So it's 4.5 is less than or equal to T, which is less than or equal to 4.6. The inclusive means we've got the equal bars under there. All right, number 5 looks like a translating one again. 3 more than. If you think back to what we talked about for more than, that means addition. Twice means 2 times. Is less than. Underline that whole thing there. Is less than. There's your inequality symbol. And we just use the less than. Now you pretty much just put in the numbers. So we'd have 3 plus 2x is less than 4. And number 6, if you look at your chart above, is no more than. That's the 4th one down on our table. So we just write x is less than or equal to 20. All right, moving on, we're going to look at how do we graph inequalities. We have this little table here just to kind of help you. If you look at a symbol, you can figure out which way to go. So you're going to shade left on a number line if you see a less than symbol or a less than or equal to symbol. And you're going to shade right if you see the opposite, if you see a greater than symbol or greater than or equal to. You'll use an open circle, meaning you can't actually be equal to that number, if you see a less than or a greater than. And you're going to use a closed circle if you see the equal bar attached with the inequality symbol. So less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. One additional note here, the variable should be written first. Otherwise, you could accidentally end up shading in the wrong direction. So you would want to say like x is less than 2. You wouldn't want to say 2 is less than x, because then you might actually shade the wrong way according to this table. So the variable should be written first. So let's practice here. We have 2 examples, and you'll notice there's lots of spaces here. You probably should be making a scale, but for our purposes, let's just pick the number that we're really focused on here and just put that in the middle. So somewhere in the middle of this number line, just put a -3. That's our key point. We'll notice that it's the less than symbol. It doesn't have the equal bar, so we're going to do an open circle at -3. And then it also is the less than, so we're going to shade to the left. So on your number line, draw an open circle, and then just shade off to the left there. And if you want to, do that, or you can make it a little bit heavier, you can do a little squiggle. Highlighters work really well. Just make sure that it's really clear which direction you're shading in. All right, number 2, it's going to be an open circle because it's the greater than symbol, and we will be shading to the right. So just put your 5 on there, open circle, and then shade it off to the right. Good. Next, A is less than or equal to 0. Throw your 0 on there, make a closed circle, shade off to the left. And number 4, put a 2 somewhere on the number line, closed circle because it's got the equal bar, and then we're going to shade off to the right. You can almost look at it, the pointy part of the inequality symbol is pointing you in the direction that you're going to be shading. All right, the last 2 examples here, we have the graph in for you, and you have to write the inequality. So we're going to start with the variable, and you can just always use x if you want. It is an open circle, so it's either less than or greater than. And because we're shading off to the left, it's going to be the less than symbol. So x is less than 2. Number 6, be a little bit careful with the scale here. You'll notice that every other tick mark is labeled, but the one that's circled in there is actually in between the 3 and the 5. So 4 is going to be our key number here. It's a closed circle, so we're going to use either less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. And because we're shading to the right, we're going to choose greater than or equal to.